Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I guess there's a bit of a technical glitch for my camera, but I'll just start anyway while I try to figure out how to turn on how to resolve the camera issue. Thank you again for joining today's webinar, which is jointly brought to you by NG and UOB Bank. I'm Wong Ying Kee, Managing Director of NG Services Malaysia, one of the fast-growing entities under the NG Southeast Asia, and I'll be your MC and moderator today. Today's webinar topic is titled Understanding Sustainable Energy Solutions for the Industry Sector. This is a platform where we engage with key stakeholders from the industry to collect their insights and perspectives on how we can all work towards a paradigm of sustainability, innovation, and resilience. The objective today really is to talk about opportunities and challenges in decarbonization and building stronger and greener industries. Today, we'll focus on topics that are related to the importance of sustainability for the industrial sector and how manufacturers can embark on their journey towards a net zero economy. We will also share a bit about the policies and incentives that could facilitate this kind of sustainable processes. At the same time, we'll discover sustainable financing solutions, which one of our panelists will share with you on how to help you achieve your green initiatives in the region. We are very happy to have two experts with us today to discuss these topics. And they are Mr. Guillaume Damayan, Head of Industry Solutions, NG Southeast Asia. Guillaume has been in the energy industry for over 14 years. Recently, he has led successful ventures in NG with multiple utility projects, the first of its kind in the region. He'll be giving us insights about what does a net zero manufacturing plant mean in the industry sector. And next, we will have Mr. Jasper Wong, Head of Construction and Infrastructure Sector Solution Group, UOB Bank. Jasper has many years of strategic coverage, focusing on developing sector-specific solutions, leveraging industry insights, data analytics, and value chain analysis. Today, he shares about simplifying green financing with U Energy program. And after the two presentations by the experts, we will have a roundtable discussion on the key topics of the day, and at the same time take some Q&A questions from the audience. So shortly we'll be hearing very soon from our panelists, but we also want to hear from you definitely to make this session a bit more interactive. As you can see on the screen, we will have a Q&A session at the end of the discussion with our panelists. The Q&A board is now open, so please feel free to type any questions that you have and you would like the panelists to talk about and address. You can type your question into the Q&A box anytime at the bottom of the screen during the session. Before I pass the floor to Guillaume, I would like to just start with our first poll question, which you will be seeing on the screen very shortly. We probably will take 1 minute just to gather all the feedback. So you should be seeing now on the first poll question, which part of sustainability journey is your company currently on? It will be good to know which phase your company is on as far as sustainability is concerned. So A, we are saying your company has already a very clear actions and goals in place. B, the company is in the midst of the sustainability journey. And C, the company is planning and about to start the journey within the next couple of years. And D, your company has not started at all and is not sure how to go about it. Maybe we'll just take about 20 seconds for everyone to answer the poll. So my video is back. I hope everybody can see me now. Yes, maybe we should end the poll and let's take a quick look at the results. It's very interesting. We have got A and B at the highest, I guess, almost equal percentage of participants saying that your company is either in the sustainability journey or already implemented some of the actions and goals. I guess we'll come back very quickly on this topic during the panel discussion. Without further ado, I would like to invite Guillaume to give us a glimpse of what a net zero manufacturing plant means and the range of solutions and benefits that are available. Guillaume, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Inky. I think my camera works, so I'm lucky that I'm not facing the same technical problem.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you very much, everybody, for attending this webinar. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today. It's an honor for me to be here next to UOB, being called an expert in energy. My name is Guillaume Darmaillan. I'm leading the development of energy in Southeast Asia. We'll explain you a little bit what we are doing and how we are doing it and what we aim to, which is the net zero factory plant. Who we are, ENGIE is a very large energy company. And what we are doing is that we are leveraging on our technical and financial strengths to help our customer, which can be factories, groups, real estate, data centers, government, university. We help all those kind of stakeholders to reduce their energy footprint and their energy consumption and their CO2 footprint. That's the whole thing that we are doing, and that's what is written on our bylaws. So very quickly, and I will not take more than a minute to introduce my company, which we are not here for that. Very quickly, we are having 4 mainstream of business, which all aims to the same, providing solutions to reduce carbon footprint of our clients. The first one is renewable. That's an obvious thing. We are creating gigawatt and gigawatts of solar, of wind turbine. We have geothermal activities in Indonesia. We have a lot of solar in Malaysia and in Singapore, in the Philippines. I will go to that later on. The networks, we are a distributor of energy, gas pipeline, electrical grid, everywhere in Europe mainly, and in South America, but as well in Australia. Thermal supplies, we are a very, very large energy producer. We are producing electricity. We are the biggest we own the biggest power plant of Singapore, Senoko, with 3.3 gigawatts of electricity. That all this gives us a very, very strong technical background and an infrastructure DNA, which allows us to invest in any type of solutions. And that's where we are coming with the fourth one, which we call energy solutions, where we leverage on those 2 main things, a very, very robust balance sheet and a very technical capabilities, to group them and offer to our clients solutions which allow them to focus on their business while we are taking care of their sustainability. Slide, please. Last slide about ENGIE, and then we go straight to the topic. I just want to explain you what is the footprint that we have in the region for you to understand exactly how we are. As you can see, based on my accent, I'm a French citizen, and I still have a very good French accent, despite the fact that I'm in Asia for more than 11 years. But ENGIE in APAC is a regional company. We have a very, very strong footprint in China, in Indonesia, but mainly in Singapore, which is our headquarters for the region. In Malaysia, where we own the largest scale solar plant under the development of LSS3, which was under launched by TNEF back 2 years ago. In Philippines, where we have one of the 4 district cooling systems that we own, and the first one in the Philippines serving a full cities near Manila. And of course, in Australia, where we have a lot of projects ongoing, including in the renewable. Next slide, please. So coming to the topics, why are we talking about manufacturing sector? Why do we need to reduce the carbon footprint on the manufacturing sector? I'm not going to the discussion about do we need to reduce our carbon footprint. I hope that everybody is convinced. If not, that would be very surprised, and that would be part of another discussion. Taking the assumption that everybody agree that humans are responsible for that carbon footprint, and that we need to reduce it in order to ensure that the planet will continue to grow. 40% of all the GHGs in APAC are the responsibility of the manufacturing sectors. All the industry of Southeast Asia and APAC are producing 40% of those gases. And as you see on the graphic on the right, this is growing, keep growing. If we want to reach our target, if we want to reach what has been agreed by almost all the countries around the world, which is to limit our global warming to 1.5%, we need to reduce those emissions by 4 to 6% per year. Right now, between 2010 and 2019, we have increased our emissions by 1.8%. So we are coming from a world where we are increasing our footprint by roughly 2% per year, and that we need to reduce it by 5% per year in the future. If we don't do it, there is no chance that the world will achieve its commitment. Can we go to the next slide, please? So why it's not done? Is it a problem of technology? Is it a problem of feasibility? No, experts would not advise to do something which is not possible. Thanks God. Over the last years that I've worked on that topics, discussing with a lot of clients, with experts, with consultants, with technology owner, we all agree that there is three main reasons why we see the progress going too slow for the Earth. The first one is the lack of expertise. I can give you an example. I have made recently a very interesting deal with Pfizer, with the very known pharmaceutical company. They were, I think everybody in the world will accept the fact that they are pretty expert in their area, which is a drug dealer, a drug producer, a drug developer, but they are not an energy expert. In order for them to reach neutrality and to commit and to, respect their commitment, their main problem could be, like all our clients that we can see across the region, a lack of expertise. A cement plant is expertise is producing cement. A drug maker expert is produce drug, and that works for everything. A city is here to support its citizens, not to decarbonize its portfolio. That's one of the main area which holding back the process of going to the neutrality. The second one is short term. Short term is an illness of the world now. If we look ahead, if we can make plan at 10, 15, 20, 50 years, that's the point to try to achieve the neutrality that we are all looking at. We need to make plan at the long term. It is not easy. There is a lot of barrier to achieve it. That's where we are here, and that's what we are working on. But indeed, that's one of the major showstopper of that exercise. The third one, of course, but we are here as well to talk about it, is the financing constraints. That costs a lot of money. I don't say that it costs a lot of money in a sense where electricity and energy, green energy costs more than gray energy. It's not the case, but it needs a lot of capex, a lot of investment, a lot of effort, financial efforts, and we'll talk about that later. If we go to the next slide, I would like to explain what are the possible steps to reach the dream of those net zero manufacturing plants. I'm not talking about something which is, okay, guys, that's the only way to do it. If you don't follow that step, you'll never go through it. In the poll earlier, I understand that almost 70%, if I did the math correctly, say that their company are ongoing or well progressed towards their sustainability goal. So I'm not going to tell you that if you didn't follow that steps, you're wrong. No, it's one of the possible steps. There is many others. First one, we need to think ahead. If we start to look at the low-hanging fruits, we miss something. We need to know what we are talking about. We need to know what kind of energy we need. We need to know what exists on the market, what are the regulations, what will be the regulation, what exists around the world. That's what let's call a long-term roadmap. We need to make a plan. From there, we need to make our system more efficient. We'll discuss later about the different targets, about improvement in the energy, which is a commitment by different governments like Singapore and Malaysia. But basically, we need to reduce our energy. Close the window before improving your air conditioning. That's the basis. Then we need to switch grid. Obviously, if you have a big boilers and produce a lot of steam, as long as you are using coal, you'll never manage to do anything. Does it make sense to go for natural gas? Maybe, depending on the roadmap that you have done, because natural gas will not allow you to be neutral. Does it make sense to go to natural gas while you hope for hydrogen to come? Maybe. That's the concept of the roadmap. And last, we'll never manage to reach any goals without the support from the authorities. Everything is a question of regulation. Energy is a very strategic business. It's a very strategic topic for all the countries, such as water, waste collection, and many others. It is a regulated business, and it is something where we need the support from the government, but we'll touch that point as well later on. Like this. I will give you an example. Yes, I will give you an example of what we're thinking and what we are doing. So I took the example of Pfizer earlier. I can give another example later. I think the next slide I will present a case study. This is what we are talking about. Having a production site, which is the expertise of all of you working in different kind of business. From there, we need to make as much as possible on-site energy, which is as low carbon as possible based on the roadmap which has been drafted, to produce utilities which are centralized and which are efficient with synergies between all of us. All this production needs to be well digitalized in order to make sure that we know what we are talking about and we have the right lever to ensure that we can reach our objective. Then the fuel, we discussed about solar, we discussed about green electricity, we can discuss about hydrogen, we can discuss about biogas, we can discuss about biomass. Which fuel will fill all this? This will not happen in one day. That will happen in decades, but that has to be planned ahead. On the last slide, before giving the floor to my fellow colleagues, I would like to give you an example of a project that we have very proudly done very recently. We are working in the region with one of the leading medical glove manufacturers, latex glove for doctors, basically. They have several sites in Malaysia, which is producing and packaging their different products, which is the latex glove. And the background is an expertise around how the glove is made. There is innovation in the latex glove. I'm not an expert in glove, definitely not, but I realized that there is a lot of innovation and a lot of high-tech product inside. But none of them are energy experts. And when we arrive and we have the first discussion and we draft their roadmap based on, in order for them as well to present that to the board, to the shareholders and so on, we realized that there was a lot to do. They didn't know exactly how much they were consuming. They didn't know exactly how to consume it the right way and so on. And slowly we took side by side, topic by topic, and we cover for each of them how to optimize the system. How does it mean replacement of chillers or boilers or heater? Does it mean change of fuel? Does it mean electrification of some process in order to be fed by solar or by green energy? All this we have made it side by side and process by process. And that allows us and allow them to reduce their carbon footprint. What does it mean? They will reduce by 40%, almost half of it, their CO2 footprint, absolute value, knowing that they are growing by 15% per year. So in relative value, sorry, it is more than 50% of their carbon footprint, which will be saved by 2030. We are not talking about decades here. We are talking about 8 years from now. All their sites are now, times to complete the project and make some further modifications, which are ongoing. All their sites will be state of art from consumptions. Their costs will be reduced. They will increase their value proposition by being more cost efficient toward their clients. Their margin will increase because their energy costs will decrease. Their value, their branding will increase because they will be able to say that they have reduced by 50%. Their client will understand that this is important. Everybody knows when you see those gloves in latex that it's not a green product. But as a matter of fact, it can be greener and it will be hopefully neutral ones. But for the time being, it is just greener. All this has been done over partnership. And I was talking about the importance of a long-term plan. We have made a 15 years partnership with them where we are handling their utilities and their energy. And this is through a long-term partnership. This is through the trust that exists between them and us that we have allowed to make that plan and reduce by investing a lot of money in their factory. That investment has been done by ENGIE, not by them, because again, their money is here to produce gloves, not to produce steam or chill water. All this is being guaranteed. In the past, if you have a problem in your site, gentlemen, this, if if the efficiency of your chillers is not good, what are you going to do? You are going to screw your engineers. That will not bring you anything. Here, the guarantee is made by NG. It's a $60 billion revenue company. There's a very strong balance sheet. We can take some commitment about the availability and about the efficiency. If your plant cannot run because your boilers doesn't work, it is not your engineers that you can screw. It is basically a strong company that will compensate you with that. Same for the solutions. Rooftop needs to exist off-site, on-site, again, depending on the regulation. This is our dream, and this is what we are doing on day-to-day. I'm presenting here an example which is very interesting because it's a several sites, but this is what we are doing with manufacturing plants, with cities, with universities, with countries, with all kind of stakeholders, and that this is what everybody needs to do in general in order to achieve our goal. This is what I wanted to share today in order to start a further question and further roundtable at a later stage.
Thank you very much, Guillaume, for the extremely insightful presentation. And now I'm in full control of my camera, finally. Indeed, it's a bit less comforting to really learn that the CO2 emission has actually increased by 1.8%, right, over the last 9 or 10 years, despite our goals to reduce it together.
Especially when we know that now we need to decrease by 5%.
Yes, to catch up with the gap, right? And I think there's really no question about the urgency to start the sustainability journey now. And it's very obvious that there are full suites of technologies and solutions to achieve this today, right? I think we'll talk a bit more about this topic in the panel discussion. If you have any questions for Guillaume, please feel free to leave them in the Q&A box below. We will come back to address your questions. But taking away from what Guillaume has shared so far, I would like to go to the second poll question. So, what is the main hurdle in achieving your company's sustainability goals? And we have got 5 choices. These choices are not mutually exclusive. You can choose more than one, I guess. But A is lack of government support and incentive. B is the concern that there will be drastic changes required and it will affect your company's operations. C is because there's a lack of capital due to additional costs involved in adopting the sustainable practices. D, it is not relevant because your company has already achieved almost all of your sustainability goals. And finally, E, not relevant because you have not started setting up your sustainability goals. We will take 20 seconds for everybody to choose their options. All right, let's end the poll. Maybe let's take a quick look at the poll results. And again, it's quite interesting to see the top 3 reasons or top 3 hurdles are A, B, and C. Well, lack of government support and incentive. We'll touch on this topic as well in the panel discussion, and concerns that it will affect your operations and lack of capital. These are exactly the objective of this session. So we'll come back to this topic later together with our experts. Next, I would like to invite Jasper to give us an understanding about UOB's New Energy program and how it can allow us to simplify our green financing scheme. Jasper, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Yinki and Guillaume, for the insightful sharing. Let me try to get my slides up. Just hang on. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jasper Wong. So I head up the construction and infrastructure for Sector Solutions Group in UOB. So what we do is we work with clients in the construction and infrastructure sector, including power and energy efficiency, to come up with unique solutions based on data, based on insights, to basically address the industry's concerns and pain points. And what we wanted to do today is just to talk about, in conjunction together with NG, our U Energy partner, talking about driving environmental responsibility to energy efficiency. Our topics today also touch on manufacturing plant, especially. Now, when it comes to energy transition, yeah, I think we recently we have heard a lot about the extreme weather that are here to stay. You hear a lot about flash flood, and over the last 2-3 months in Malaysia, there's also quite severe flood that's happening in Malaysia and all over several states, and this really, you know, brings home the urgency of sustainability, and also quite aptly that 2 days ago EMA effectively released a report which is titled "Charting the Energy Transition to 2050." And what the conclusion of the report is that overall the committee has concluded that it is realistic for Singapore's power sector to aspire to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 while still maintaining energy security and affordability. So that actually brings home the thought about, even the government now is driving the policy very hard to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, and that will certainly impact the corporates and also other governments in around ASEAN to look at how we're going to move towards net zero. So it's not just setting a target, but also taking steps, concrete regulations and steps to achieve net zero. Now, when we look at sustainability for UOB, we sort of look ahead and see what is coming up. A lot of the timeline that the corporates or the governments in COP26 are setting net zero target at 2050 or 2065 or 2060. So if we just look ahead in the next 30 years, global population will reach around 10 billion. And as a result of that, the building floor space will increase by 100%. So if building floor space will double by then, and if you look at the materials that's required to build all this building, it's roughly about 14 billion ton per annum. And as we all know, that building constructions and operation accounts for close to 40% of the CO2 sector emissions. So therefore, then we dig deeper and look at how is the government around the region are reacting with regards to energy demand and energy supply. And when we drill down to the policies, the government effectively is tackling it on both ways. Not they used to only look at the supply side, but now they're also very much looking at demand, which can effectively affect the supply. So from here we can look at all the countries around this region that are core to UOB markets, and we find that there is very favorable energy efficiency policies that has been put out by the government. Now, to give you an example, recently the Singapore government has also announced new incentives and grants for energy efficiency, for instance, like the BCA, GMIS 2.0. So this effectively provide funding for retrofit works to reduce carbon emission for up to 50% of the qualifying cost. And this one will be coming up, very shortly in the next quarter. Now, on the NEA side, the E2F Energy Efficiency Fund is going to increase the qualifying cost from 50% to 70%. So if you are looking at retrofitting your buildings or your manufacturing plants, this is the time to actually seriously consider. Now, if we look back over on the last couple of years, they always joke that today's recommendation is tomorrow's regulation. So which is quite true, and in the fact that if you look at NEA, the amount of standards that is being imposed, whether you look at MEES, so minimum energy efficiency standards. If you look at the requirement to do a energy efficiency assessment, or even if you look at the EMS, the energy performance or management system, these are all the regulations that slowly is pushing the building owners or the manufacturing plants towards a higher standard with regards to whether it's your water chiller or in terms of your carbon emission and so on and so forth. So this is something that if your company, I look at the survey just now, you know, as more than 70% of the participants here are already on your way on your sustainability journey. I hope that you guys have started on your journey. Now, just a bit more on the GMIS 2.0. The interesting bit that they have started to look at how they actually qualify the qualifying criteria, you know, is actually tied to the green mark certificate that you have, but also the funding factor is based on the tonnage of CO2 equivalent. So the higher standards that you set for your building means the more funding you will get in terms of increasing the efficiency of your building. Yeah. So let me just quickly move on to Malaysia as well. So not forgetting Malaysia. Um, the 12th Malaysia plan has also put up a lot of policies that is tackling the resetting the economies, strengthening the security and well-being, advancing sustainability. What you see here is that the dark blue boxes are related to built environment, but with the green circles around those are energy efficiency opportunities. Now, the Malaysia E initiative is also anchored by the SEDA, MGTC, MIDA, and the Green Tech Fund. So we have at UOB, we work very closely with SEDA, MIDA, and also MGTC in tapping some of their policies and also incentives so that our customers can actually enjoy while they do the upgrade on their energy efficiency, they also get a lower interest rate. Now, I will skip through this page. I think a lot of the audience are already aware of sustainability efforts and also energy efficiency. But I just want to point out that if you look at energy efficiency, you know, there are a lot of benefits in terms of whether you are looking to achieve your ESG objective, whether you're looking at cost savings, whether you're looking at increasing capital value. But there's also one last point that that we want to highlight is that now companies are also looking at this as a branding as well. When they want to attract talents, they will increasingly, you know, the candidates are increasingly looking at companies who are adopting good ESG practices. So that's something for us to think about. Now, with regards to the energy efficiency around the region, when we survey our clients in the surrounding ASEAN countries, you know, 97% of them say that sustainability is important now. And also there's a strong interest to undertake energy efficiency if it's a zero outlay model. So which is, you know, there are two types of model that you can embark on if you undertake EE. I'll go into that slightly a bit shortly. Now, if you look at the survey results, actually Malaysia, Singapore, not bad in the terms of 81% of our clients are aware of energy efficiency. But what that means also is that there are a lot more opportunities for improvement, also for energy service companies, as well as for sustainability consultants. Now, in terms of energy savings, when we ask our clients in terms of how much savings do they get, they usually will say it's roughly ranging from 10% all the way up to 50%. So there is substantial cost savings actually can be derived when you undertake a energy efficiency project. And also just now we heard from Guillaume, the projects that they have undertaken, you know, have saved up to 40%. Now, in terms of typical contracting model, I know that traditionally building owners or manufacturing or industrial plants have taken it upon themselves to do a direct purchase. They just give to their procurement department and then just say, I just need to have a new chiller installed, right? And then they just fund that from their own capex, or they just borrow from the banks. Now, the new model that we normally look at now that there's a lot more inquiries, energy as a service. What that means is that, as Guillaume has mentioned, energy can provide this type of service. Actually, they will undertake to procure, undertake to install, undertake to operate, and undertake also to guarantee in terms of performance of the energy efficiency project, so that the building owners or the industrial owners just pay for what they get from the system itself. So in terms of the U Energy program, so UOB has actually, looking at the landscape of the region, have come up with the U Energy program, which is Asia's first integrated financing platform for energy efficiency, with three purposes. The first one is to promote sustainability awareness to the public, because we found that a lot of our clients may not be aware of the incentives, or in terms of the savings that they can actually get from embarking on energy efficiency. Second thing is we also support the EE ecosystem. Whether you are a ESCO, whether you are a M&E contractor, equipment supplier, we can provide working capital financing to help you tie you through the project itself. And we also work very closely with NG in terms of their projects, that we can support them from a developer perspective or ESCO perspective. And the last thing is that we want to simplify sustainability for our end user, with regards to whether you are a direct building owner, industrial owner, or you are a home owner as well. Yeah. So in terms of our U Energy program, we effectively has started launching this back in October. We started in Singapore, then in December we launched it in Malaysia, and fresh off the oven, yesterday we just launched our program in Thailand, and we have multiple partners in our program that you can inquire about if you have any interest. Now, with regards to the 7 areas of energy efficiency, typically, this is if you look at a building, the energy guzzling initiative, or the most how to say guzzling of your electricity bill is effectively your chiller or your AHU, your air conditioning, which are the most cost savings that you can generate from. The other thing that are getting popular is energy and power management system. Effectively, you don't change your hardware. Effectively, you just optimize through using algorithm and software. So these are the 3 things, and plus solar, facade, elevator, as well as lighting, not forgetting lighting on the LED side. Now, for this seminar, I know that we're focusing on industrial and manufacturing plants, but for our U Energy program, we also look at offices, retail, data center, mixed development, public buildings, hotels, as well as residential. So residential, if you want to install smart home devices in your home, we also have a package for that. Now, in terms of the financing, as I said, in terms of developer financing, ESCO portfolio, if you have multiple locations in your manufacturing plants all over the country, we can look at it from a portfolio perspective, or even if you have a single building within the country or across different countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. In terms of the ecosystem itself, if you are a contractor, if you are looking at the equipment itself, we also provide financing, and of course, not forgetting the end user, which is the building owner themselves. Now, I'm gonna end my presentation soon, so we can go into the panel discussion. I just want to emphasize that for UOB, we started this journey 2 years ago with our Smart City Sustainable Finance Framework, which actually consists of 7 pillars. So as Guillaume has mentioned just now, we also have a program for solar, for renewable energy. We also look at green building construction, energy efficiency, EV, green transport, EV infrastructure, waste and water management, and last but not least, climate change adaptation. And we provide this at no additional cost to our clients for them to tap on green loan so that they can start their sustainability journey. A couple of quick examples in terms of commercial industrial buildings. You usually, if you look at industrial buildings, the payback period is very short because it's 24/7 and it's 365 days a year operation. So the savings can be a lot, and when you do the accumulation over a period of time, we have also financed the installation. Currently, it's ongoing for Changi Airport too for their chiller change. We also have looked at, have done the SGX Center and also other industrials like resort worlds and also industrials. Last but not least, a lot of clients been asking us, you talk a lot about energy efficiency. What is UOB doing? So from the bank's perspective, this is now sustainability is core to our business. And UOB is committed to also go sustainable from our own operation perspective. So we have started retrofitting all our buildings, and this is currently already underway. And we have a couple of other buildings that we are going through the exercise now, and at least they will have a green mark rating of Gold Plus or Platinum. So that's the crux of UOB's core sustainability journey. Now, I guess towards the end, why are we talking about energy efficiency, right? I just want to highlight that just to wrap up, 6 benefits. So one is you save few electricity bills. Second thing is it can be a no upfront cost journey for the corporates because it's energy as a service. We have flexible financing scheme. In terms of building, we have bundling of installation and operational package. So what I mean is, as Guillaume has mentioned, if you have a long-term contract with Angie, then the operations and the maintenance part of it will be left for Angie to take care. And the other exercise that some clients are taking is that they will take the opportunity to upgrade their facilities or operations to a green mark building or green mark certification. So you can also take the opportunity to look at this when you do your energy efficiency retrofit. And last but not least, I think we all need to do our part. As Inge has mentioned, the world's temperature is rising by more than 1.8% decrease. So that's it. That's my last slide. If we have launched our U Energy program in Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand, and we're looking now to launch in Indonesia shortly by mid-year. So thank you very much. I'll pass the time back to Yingki.
Thank you very much, Jasper. It's an extremely interesting presentation. I think one of the more interesting points that I note is that, when you show that your EE survey results highlight that one of the key pain points is the lack of capital, right, to implement green solutions. And this is exactly the same as what we see in the second poll result as well. So I believe this is where U Energy program can take a very active role to address these pain points. So we'll come to this point afterward in the roundtable. But let's take a quick look at our last poll question. Would you be interested to find out how to embark on your EE project for your manufacturing plant? And there are very simple answers here, only three choices. Yes, I would like to find out more from NG and UOB, and yes, but I'll be doing it on my own in-house. Or C, you're not decided yet and you're still thinking about it. It's a very straightforward question. I'll probably just take 10 seconds before we end the poll. Yes, I guess we probably can end the poll and take a quick look at the results. So almost half of you say that yes, you would like to find out more, which is very encouraging. And there's about 26% saying that they are not decided yet and they're still thinking about it. So I mean, both speakers have given us a very quick run through of the sustainable energy solutions and green financing that's available in the region. I wanted to take this opportunity to have a more in-depth discussion regarding the opportunities and challenges that we are facing, especially in the context of escalating oil and energy prices and how these problems will affect the way of everybody doing businesses, as well as how it's affecting our environment and the world that we are living in. So, as Guillaume was sharing as well, since the last COP26, most countries have been taking very concrete actions to commit to the fight against climate change, right? For example, Malaysia has committed to net zero by as early as 2050, and to achieve 31% share of renewables by 2025, to reduce carbon intensity reduction by 45% by 2020. Likewise, across the border, Singapore has committed to net zero as soon as it's viable in the second half of the century. The Singapore Green Plan 2030 has charted out very, very ambitious targets over the next 10 years. For example, to increase solar deployment to 1.5 gigawatt peak by 2025, and to see 80% improvement in EE over as compared to 2005 levels. At the same time, I think Singapore also aims to be the leading center for green financing and services in Asia region to help the transition to a lower carbon future. So can I ask Jasper and Guillaume to share your take, right, on these commitments by the respective governments and countries, and what are the factors that are affecting the industry players from really embarking on the journey? Maybe get Jasper, you would like to share your opinion first?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Inky. I think as recent as a couple of months ago, the EMA has started to, or now there's actually a tender out that which will be due by April, regards to the interest for commercial parties to basically import renewable energy into Singapore, right? And that's about, they are looking at 1.2, 1.3 gigawatt in the first phase. Yeah, and that shows the commitment that the country is thinking outside of the box in terms of how to achieve net zero, right? And the recent report has also put a very ambitious target of 2050 to achieve net zero on a from an energy sector perspective. I think for Singapore, it is quite critical because of national energy security and affordability, right? I mean, you cannot have all renewable and then everyone cannot afford it, right? And that's gonna drive the behavior in terms of people will say, is it driving all sustainability at all costs, or how do we achieve that? And I always think that my personal view is that it's interesting to see the world that is moving towards using a economic means to solve a environmental issue by imposing carbon tax as well, right? So Singapore is gonna increase the carbon tax from $5 to $25 by 2024, and then maybe 50 or between $50 to $80 by the end of the decade. So this actually quickly brings home the issue for corporates. It's like, if I'm going to continue to operate in this region, no matter where you are, you will get hit. Then the question is, how do I run my business moving forward? Do I wait until I really necessarily need to move, or do I start preparing now? And then that's the issue that's always facing CFO when we talk to them. There's also, I think, something for Guillaume as well. We always find that there's always this tension between the operations and the finance people in terms of what the finance operations people want and what the finance people want. So I think that's it. But now I think slowly it's starting to converge in terms of what the whole corporate drives towards in terms of a goal to either whether you set a net zero target for the entire company, or some form of reduction in your CO2 emission. So I think that's conversations are getting easier, but I think in terms of financing wise, there's still a lot of issues, and I think that solutions that NG has actually can address the bulk of the issues. Yeah.
No, thank you very much, Jasper, for sharing your thoughts. I fully agree with you that the companies, let's say like UOB and NG, we can play a very active role in helping industrial players accelerate their journey, right, in sustainability. Guillaume, maybe you want to share a bit of your insights from the perspective
well,
of an energy player.
sure. I agree with about what Jasper just said. It's all those different commitments that have taken the different government that we have taken, Malaysia, Singapore, are very good commitment. It is mandatory. We explained about why earlier, but how important is it, and what is the objective? Let's be frank. It's mandatory. There is no choice. The lawmakers needs to move in order for the private sector, for the public sector, and for everybody to move forward towards a neutrality. And it's not something which has a cost. It is an opportunity. We just spent 2 years on a very deep crisis, and in Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, PM Lee, excuse me, just make some very great announcement about release some rules which will all give us a great smile, and we'll be able to see our smiles since the mask won't be any more mandatory, but outside. But anyway, so we have just spent 2 years which were absolutely terrible. Some business crashed and so on. And right now, we need to understand that this, on top of being mandatory for the earth, is a business opportunity. This can make companies stronger. This can make the employment. This can create a new economy which will be stronger and stronger. We are living now in another kind of crisis, which what's going on in Ukraine, which will end with a skyrocket price of energy, and whatever the energy, gas, coal, everything is going up. And we need to bear in mind that the sun cost is still the same. The wind cost is still the same. So in terms of resilience, in terms of growth, in terms of business opportunities, this is not a threat. This is the solutions to many different problems.
Yeah. But on let's say on the carbon tax that are recently introduced in the Singapore 2022 budget, how do you think that will impact the industry as a whole?
I can take that. I think it's a very, very good sign. Okay, personal selfish interest. I would have loved to have a higher carbon tax that increase the business. But joke aside, it is a very, very good sign, because we are talking about carbon tax for years and years in Singapore. We are all wondering what will be the final numbers and analysis. And Singapore, as usual, has made a very clear direction by making a pace. We know exactly up to end of the decade, 2030, what will be the carbon tax. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we have discussed with clients which were trying to model in their financial models and in their estimation what will be the carbon tax. And I have seen literally companies paying $5 or $30 within the same years. So nobody really knew what was the risk of the carbon tax on their own P&L. At least now, the rules is clear, and that allow, and I come back to what I said during my initial presentation, it allows us to make long-term plan. When you know what will be the tax scheme in 2030, despite the fact that you are early 2022, that allow you to make your roadmap and your plan ahead of the next 8 years and most likely more. So it's a very, very good sign, a very clear direction and now we need to work on a proper plan with different stakeholders, and there is no more reasons to hold it.
Yes, so the urgency is there definitely, and there's no excuse to say that you don't want to embark on a green journey anymore. But so back to Jasper, right? As a banker, Jasper, I mean, if I look at the poll results, lack of capital is actually the top hurdle. It's not one of the top, but the top hurdle. when it comes to embarking on a green journey or sustainability journey. So with your U Energy program and as a banker, how do you respond to this kind of pain points or hurdle?
Yeah, thanks, Inky. I think like Guillaume said, we actually should not look at this as a risk. We should look at it as an opportunity. When we talk to our clients, and when we design our U Energy program, actually we design it on the basis that the industrial owner or the building owner must actually enjoy definitive savings, yeah, from the whole exercise, right? It's the traditional way is that the operations manager will just go and raise a request to finance and say I need to change the chiller is 20 years old or 15 years old already, and they will do this as a capex exercise. Actually, they can look at it on the basis that it's actually a saving exercise, right? So when we look at our program, when we offer financing to the clients on new energy program, we look at it on the basis that the retrofit exercise must actually produce at least 20 or 30% minimum of savings from that. And if they raise the financing, we will need to ensure that financing cost that is being paid out as a debt service must be sufficient to cover the savings. If it doesn't cover the saving, then it is not a good project. And I would advise that don't take that project, because you are actually paying more for doing what you're supposed to do. So therefore we always look at it from a very practical and from a financial perspective, it must make sense for our clients. So that's number one. And second thing is with the financing, different financing instruments that's coming up, and the different ways of financing. Now there is a opportunity to do energy as a service, whereby companies like Angers can actually take on that role as well, to say, hey, I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I can guarantee the performance of the retrofit that I'm giving you. So it's more like a service rather than as a capex exercise. So I think with this kind of mindset, then in terms of when people say there's lack of capital, right? I think the mindset change, for finance people needs to look a bit more further. How can we still achieve our sustainability and our carbon reduction, while yet not, taking on more debt on their own? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more, because in all our projects today, the capital to invest into the green technologies are fully funded from the energy savings itself. And usually there's always a surplus that flows back to the company's net cash flow. But I just want to come to the same poll question, but another top hurdle, Guillaume, maybe is for you, right? Is that companies are concerned that there will be drastic changes to their operational practice by embarking on by implementing green solutions. How do you address this concern?
It will be the case. It will be the case versus, things need to change, but change doesn't mean that it will be worse. We need to understand that from operation, I see three main change, and I can even take NG as a sort of example. NG used to be a company with deep involvement in power generation by coal. Within 2 or 3 years, we have divested all our assets related to coal, and there was a lot. So we launched in a journey where we have revamped the entire company and changed completely the business model. If you look at the results, and usually what we see from our clients, what are the drivers from our clients to go for neutrality, we see three main things. The first one is your value proposition. Indeed, the operation will change, but at the end, everything will change, even the way you sell product. Sooner or later, one of the value proposition of a shampoo maker such as L'Oreal or whatever will be to say that their product has been made on the neutrality basis. Trying to continue to sell product, and I was mentioning the glove makers earlier, trying to continue to make progress on its business without embarking in that journey is impossible because the client will need it. Then we shouldn't forget that green energy is cheaper than green energy. I will say it again and again and again. If I take in Malaysia, you cover your roof with solar, and I see you're smiling on this. Electricity produced by solar is 30% at least cheaper than the grid. So first, that reduces your carbon footprint. Then that gives you discount, that gives you profit. I mean, that gives you reduce your OPEX. And now 30%. But on top of that, the electricity price will increase in the future. I mean, I don't have crystal ball, but that's pretty obvious. And still, that price of sun will remain the same. So right now it's 30%, but in the future it will be 40 or 50 if you go now with those assets. So it increases your value proposition towards your client. It increases your profit margin, basically. It decreases your cost. Then the second aspect that we see is your relation with the shareholder and stock and different stock markets. I don't know, depending on if listed or not, but no investors like to invest in dirty company. That's a message. That's clear. If we look at the way the cost of capital is structured in the market, we can see, and I take again the example of NG, we have seen that we are able to raise money on the stock exchange way lower than in the past. And the reason is obvious. People prefer to lend money to companies which are helping the planet than companies which are destroying the planet. And of course, I try to summarize that by harming the planet versus saving the planet. I'm not saying that we are saving the planet, we are just doing our job. But what I try to say is obviously the financial world is not, and you'll be the first one, as a matter of fact, to support way more green company or company which make an effort towards the green aspect than company which basically doesn't do anything on it. The third one is very surprising. What we see as a disruption of operation as well is HR. I had once, I would need to double check that figures, but I read once that NG, when we changed that model, we changed the name, work on that new business model, HR were receiving 3 times more CVs than in the past. I'm French citizen. NG is a French company. And when I was back at school, which were a few years ago, I'm not going to give numbers. If once you would have told me that we'll work for GDF Suez, I would have said, no way, never. That was a company involved in coal, power generation, not very green, no renewable and so on. Few years back, I'm here and I'm talking about that company with passion. So definitely that will change something. Then from an operation perspective, just very different point. From an operation perspective, it will change your process because it will change type of equipment you will have. It will change type of having more digitalization will change the mindset of your operator and so on. And this is why there is expert like NG, but as well many others, I'm sure, capable to help you on that to deploy those equipment.
Thank you. No, I'm sure the increase in CV is also partly related to the very nice background that we have on the screen now. It's attractive. It's good for branding purpose as well. But Jasper, I'll come to you later on the question about the market response of U-Energy, right? But before that, can I ask Guillaume also to comment a bit about, we talk about net zero economy. How is this changing, companies or industrial manufacturers' business model today?
As I say, it gives more resilience. It gives more competitiveness. It gives more value proposition. It gives more exposure to the stock exchange. It gives more selling point to HR. It gives more. It will just change completely the company if you are a pioneer. For sure that at the end, everybody will go to that route, but just better to be part of the first one, or at least not part of the last one.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the interesting insights. Jasper, just one last question to you before we go to the Q&A, to look at the Q&A questions. So how is the market response so far on your U-Energy program since you're launching?
Well, I think the response have been very encouraging. I think we've just launched back in October, and we have already have 2 or 3 deals that have already executed. And one of the deals we have actually managed to also tap on the Singapore Enterprise Singapore's energy efficiency funding for green projects. So I mean the Singapore and the Malaysian governments are actually giving out a lot of incentives if you know how to tap them and if you know how to work with a credible ESCOs, and they will be able to give you the opportunity to go into and tap into those, whether it's E2F or whether it's brief scheme. Those are the way that you can get involved and also increase your savings through this financing scheme. For us, I think we are looking at more from an impact perspective. We started off with our youth solar program 2 years ago, and when we are already around the region. We have 16 partners already, and by the end of this year, we will probably hit about 20 partners. And we're just seeing that the requests are coming in um, um, very quickly in terms of like, oh, what do I need to do? If I want to go green, what can I do and things like that. I think that's the common question that we usually get, right? Especially for SMEs. I think large corporate is fine. They have a decarbonization pathway. But for mid corps and or SMEs, when they want to say, hey, I know all about this solar and energy efficiency, where do I start and things like that. So that's the type of conversation that we usually have. And therefore we have financing program that is actually for these purposes. And we have also launched another program called U Drive last year to tackle the EV and EV infrastructure. So we find that as a bank, we now need to be more relevant in terms of be aware of the requirements of our clients. Whether it's their scope 1 or scope 2 or scope 3 when we design our financing scheme. So I think that's something that I think will keep us very busy for the next 5 to 10 years.
That's good to know. That's good to know that you'll be extremely busy for the next 10 years at least with your new energy program.
We
Thank you again for your
we need
interesting-
NG to bring more deals.
Yes, we'll jointly work on this together. I can see that there are already a lot of questions right in the Q&A board, but please, to the audience, please continue to ask your questions in the Q&A board. Maybe I will just go to the first question that we see and try to address that. So the first question is, even with the current sky-high oil prices, which is further exacerbated by the Ukraine-Russia conflict, we still see conventional electricity rates lower than the green energy plans. And how can we level the playing field in terms of energy resources to achieve net zero? I guess this is more in the context of Singapore, because it's definitely not the case in Malaysia. In the case of Malaysia, solar energy is cheaper than the grid energy. So maybe I ask, maybe Guillaume, you want to comment on this?
Yeah, yes. Actually, you partially answered to your question to the question as well. Okay, the energy price increased dramatically this last few months. It started a little bit before the Ukraine-Russian conflict, but indeed that conflict has increased the pressure on the gas mainly, and on uncertainty on the market, which has increased as such the electricity price and the energy price of the world. However, I don't think that it's indeed true to say that green energy are more expensive than conventional energy. But the question, if I read it correctly, is green energy plants are more expensive than electricity plants. And in that case, yes, it's true. But what is the reason? Regulation. Producing electricity with a solar panel, a wind turbine when there is wind, geothermal when there is resources, and so on, is cheaper than burning gas, coal, or anything else. That can be demonstrated 100 times, and this is a fact. The problem is availability. When, as Jasper shared earlier, that there is a tender for EMA, to import green energy green energy from overseas to Singapore. The price is linked to the volume. If there is quotas that increase the price of energy, it's not the production which is more expensive, it is the availability. When the government, and it goes in Malaysia as well, which impose some quotas around the very large scale, if there is no quotas, the production is more, it would be definitely cheaper than the conventional electricity price. So how to handle that? Putting more pressure on the government and work with them on different technological solutions, giving them the comfort of having a market which is capable to absorb it, having the market which is capable to produce it, and making further plan, giving them long-term roadmap, showing that companies want some green energy, showing that some company needs, if not, they will not drive further investment in the countries and so on. And by doing all this, slowly there will be more quotas, more volume, more business and so on, and the electricity, the green electricity price will go down since the production of those energy is lower than conventional energy.
Thank you. Thank you for the interesting insights again. There's another question which is again very relevant to you. Some manufacturers require tons of electricity to power, for example, injection molding machines. For smaller and mid-sized players that cannot possibly have their own on-site utilities in Singapore, like the glove maker that you mentioned in Malaysia. What is your advice for this kind of players?
That puts a little bit of pressure to know that there is glove experts in the audience. All right, so I should be very careful about saying gloves. So I would say that there is even more opportunity. So if you tell me that you don't have space to optimize, it means that again you have a lack of expertise or lack of resources, or resources can be land, especially in Singapore. So let me show a model which exists, which ENGIE is the leader in the world, by the way, on this type of solutions, but that is duplicable. I was referring earlier to a district cooling system. We own few in the region, and that's the kind of model that we are looking at as well. If you tell me that you don't have enough space to optimize because you would need bigger space on your roof to install cooling tower and so on, district cooling may be a solution. ENGIE, if we get into an agreement about what is your requirement, lower down your CO2, lower down your energy cost, having more energy, having more flexibility towards your energy, having a more flexibility energy supplies based on your new load post-COVID or whatever, then we can work on the models where together with some neighbors, we can centralize the energy generation, I mean the central utility building, in order to feed 1, 2, 3, 10, hundreds manufacturing plants. Of course, you are never going to make a deal with your neighbors to provide, to jointly make your central utility building, but external players such as us can do it. We can very well come to you, check with your neighbors and so on. Okay, would there be a business case where we utilize the space between different players in order to feed both players, which has a lot of different advantages.
Thank you. So the questions are pouring in, by the way, so we can only choose those which are the most relevant. Maybe this one is for Jasper, I guess. Beyond energy efficiency, the change to renewable energy, radical technology solutions are needed to achieve net zero. So, for example, carbon storage and other solutions. So these kind of solutions will be cost intensive, right? And there are uncertainty in technology as opposed to the safer route with energy efficiency, with the cost benefits and minimal retrofitting of EE solutions. In terms of green financing, what challenges do you see when to really accelerate this kind of implementation of green technologies to help the industrial players?
Okay, no, thanks for that question. I mean, I will answer it this way. If you look at solar, right? 15 years ago, or even 10 years ago, actually the cost per kilowatt is actually very high, right? Compared to conventional, whether you're talking about gas-fired or coal-fired power plant, on a per kilowatt basis. And the reason why the take-up was not there was not because there's not available financing. It's actually, in terms of economics wise, it hasn't reached that economies of scale, where now, comparing now and versus 10 years ago, the cost of building a solar plant effectively now you're more competitive than your gas-fired power plant, right? The funding cost, and recently the large-scale solar exercise that Malaysia government has run actually proves that they are now even below the Tenaga's PPA pricing. So I would say that from a bank's perspective, we will look to finance new technology as under our smart city sustainable finance framework on the basis that if there is one is technological adoption, and second thing is also in terms of economics wise, whether it is actually makes sense for the industry to uptake. I mean, one example is carbon capture, right? Carbon capture is actually will help to reduce the let's say the coal-fired power plant if they want to minimize the CO2 is being released, but because the scale and the capex intensity that is required to just capture the carbon from the environment or from the air is actually cost more than if I just do a renewable plant, whether it's wind or solar or even do EE retrofit. So therefore the market actually decides what will make more sense. Now, until a time whereby if I'm hoping that the other good example is battery storage, right? I think this huge potential for battery storage in the coming 5 years, because if you want to stabilize the availability of renewable energy like solar and wind, you definitely need a storage facility. And with the proliferation of EVs in this region, this part of the region, I think battery costs will start to come down. And when battery starts to come down, I'm very hopeful that it will actually spur more renewable projects to be done on that basis. Yeah, that will be my view.
Thank you, Jasper. I think we probably can take one last question, the last two questions. We still have a bit of time left. So there's another question here. I guess it's probably more related to Guillaume. It says, great presentation. Does all the incentives and programs presented address the embedded carbon in the construction phase or construction projects, especially retrofits where we can change a 15-year-old chiller, but the chilled water piping of the same age are not touched or replaced? Guillaume, what is your take on this?
I'm reading again. So if I understand well, the questions asking how do we account the carbon during the construction phase of the project? So the way I understand the question, I think everything come back to my first point about the roadmap. Indeed, if we are talking about changing old chillers by new chillers and saying, job done, I'm very happy. Yes, that will improve something, but that will not serve the purpose. From technical perspective, from strategic perspective, from any perspective, everything needs to be to work on the plan. So when you're looking at a retrofit and you want to change your chillers, but all your distribution network is occupied by different systems, you cannot touch it because the production has to keep going and so on. This is where you need to make a plan. This is where you need to say, okay, what I'm talking about, does it still make sense to position it here? Is there any type of solution which maybe could be used? I don't know. It seems to be a problem which is very specific. I would be very happy to have a discussion with the person who raised that question. But basically, based on our experience, when we approach our client, they always come with, oh, the problem why I've not done it is this. Okay, let's step back, think a little bit, try to get a global picture, and we have always found a solution. It comes to another question that I was just reading just now about power monitoring. There is a question in the poll saying, is it really required to know exactly the type of data before embarking that kind of journey? It comes to more or less the same problem. Would you plan your holidays without knowing if you bring your kids together or your wife or husband? No, you need to know exactly what you are and where you are in order to plan something. Obviously, I'm spending very different holidays when my kids are here, when my kids are not here. And that's a little bit the same. If you don't know exactly what you are consuming, how you are consuming, where your steam is going, where your chill water is going, is that the right temperature? You are producing hot water or chill water of 7 degrees. Is 9 degrees possible for your process? 5 degrees? Maybe that will change the efficiency. You need to step back, look at your process with an energy aspect. I think we lost again the Yinki camera. You need to look at exactly where all those energy goes in order to make a proper plan and take the right decision. Yinki, are you still here? Yeah.
Yes, I'm still here. If you can still hear me and see me.
Great.
No, I agree with you. I think we are running a bit out of time. I think let's take one last question, right, from the audience. There is this very interesting question about how can green finance and private industry come together to make the ASEAN or greater regional electricity grid a reality? I don't know who, either of you wants to give your take on this, or both of you may say something about it.
Maybe I'll give my views. I guess if you're talking about the ASEAN electricity grid, right? I mean, effectively, you need the government to move together, right? I know that there's already a working committee that's already formed, and they have been talking about this for years and years and years. I think we are probably closer than ever now, given the urgency in terms of they're talking about electricity trading. They're talking about how to go net zero as a country. Effectively, it may make sense to actually import, look at interconnection among the countries itself, similar to what Singapore is now trying to embark on, is to import renewable energy rather than building out ourselves. So in terms of it will need the whole village, I would say, right? The governments, the private sector, the financial sector to actually come in, to actually work together to make this a reality. However, I think one interesting question to mind is, if everyone is trying to achieve net zero, then you must have a party that's actually have surplus renewable energy for them to export, right? So that is that will I think the answers are quite obvious. Currently at the moment, you are looking at Laos, you're looking at Cambodia with actually exporting their hydroelectric power to their neighbors, right? So Singapore has really embarked on that plan to actually look at how do we tap the hydropower from Laos. So then questions also for their own country is, how, if everybody is also grappling the same resource, then how do we allocate effectively among the countries? And I think that this will give rise to a trading mechanism that Singapore currently is trying to embark on. And when you have a wholesale market, then that's where you can feed to have interconnection and cross-country electricity grid. Yeah, that will be my take on it.
Thank you for the interesting response on this, Jasper, on this question. Again, I want to thank the audience for the extremely active participation by all the questions. We are not able to answer all the questions, but I think we will probably address some of these questions after the webinar separately. But before we conclude the webinar, can I just go around the table to get some final thoughts from both of you, Guillaume and Jasper, on today's topic? Can I just let you take 1 minute, Jasper, to share your final takeaway?
Sure. Thanks, EP. I think today we've been talking about 1.5 hours about going sustainable and talking about energy efficiency. I think for us, the time to act is actually now. I mean, don't wait until we get to 2025 or get to 2030, then we start planning, right? So even if you start planning now, actually you may only take action in next year or the year after. So for us, we are always you know, ASEAN is our playground, is our home country, I would call it, and we are always here to try to help our clients to decarbonize, and we have solutions and financing for that. So you know, if you have any requirements, you know, feel free to reach out to us, and you know, we are more than happy to talk to you, and together with NG as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasper. Guillaume, any final thoughts or final conclusion that you want to share with the audience?
Yes, in the energy sectors now, everybody's a little bit pessimistic. The cost goes up, it's complex. There is a huge tension about gas price due to a horrible war and so on. But I would like to finish with a very positive note. When I'm working in that industry for years and years, I participate to debates, to webinars, I assisted many different conferences. And at the beginning was a batch of experts talking to each other. Now we see that more and more players, so banks embark to that journey, and UOB is a perfect example. Many years ago as well, we are more and more clients which come to us with the right answer. And when I see the level of the question which are asking in this webinar, it shows that there is a lot of passion around the topics, a lot of things moving on. When I see the amount of people who join the webinar today, I'm very, very happy and very excited to see that the level of interest is there. It's a no-brainer. It's cheaper, more resilience, greener, and everybody needs to do it. But I'm very happy to see that more and more people agree with that statement and get more and more involved into that journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Guillaume, for your takeaway. I couldn't agree more. Right. Personally, for me, I think we are actually at the unprecedented era of sustainability awareness. I think there's a lot of people who are very, very well aware of the sustainability efforts that everybody need to embark on. But what I think a more important point is that is again, right, I'm repeating myself, embarking on sustainability is no longer an extra cost to industrial manufacturers or to any energy users. I mean, with the advancement of today's technology, it's definitely possible to achieve very meaningful cost savings, even after investing into the green technologies. And all these net savings will flow directly to the profits of the company. And at the same time, help the industrial manufacturers improve their ESG scoring, if you like, at the same time. And so with today's rising energy prices, I think, and increasing government incentives that are available, I think it's never a better time now to start the sustainability journey. So with that, we have come to the end of today's webinar. Again, a big thank you to Jasper and Guillaume for being with us today, and also to both NG and UOB for making the webinar possible. Thank you everyone for taking time to attend this webinar. We would like to invite you to continue joining us in our upcoming webinars. Please look out for more information in your mailbox or via NG Southeast Asia's LinkedIn page. We have also a couple of QR codes that we are going to display on the screen. There you go. If you'd like to find out more about the sustainable energy solutions for the industrial sector or UOB's U Energy program, please check out the QR code. On the right is for UOB U Energy program, and on the left is for NG Energy Solutions. So again, thank you everyone, and have a great week ahead. Stay safe and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.